space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Retrek. I'm Captain Jim, and with me, of course, is Admiral Elliot.
Hi there.
And Dr. Squee.
I am here. I just tried to alter one headphone wasn't working, so I moved a wire and
so you broke it all, just the way it goes.
And ahoy hoy!
But Dr. Squee, you decide to miss the booby trap week, but you're back for a classic this time.
I mean, for God's sake, what did we say to annoy the makers of Lower Decks recently? Like they're just maybe they've heard that we do this and they're like,
maybe.
Right, oh, let's test this commitment then. Like we'll throw in booby trap as a little reward for them after doing like after every bad one. I think they're going to just throw in a good one for us to make up.
Well, maybe.
I don't know if you've noticed, but they altered the titles again.
Have they?
You've now got the crystalline entity behind
that's been there all season.
Yeah, it wasn't there last season though.
No,
so we're going to get to do data law.
Yeah, we've got that in our back pocket just in case we need. If there's no references to any other episodes, we've always got that one. But this week, then
we could have probably gone on quite a few if we'd thought about it, but it was just too obvious right at the beginning. What to do.
Oh no, this week it was it was definite which one we had to do. So we're looking at Room for Growth, the latest episode of Lower Decks, and of course that has led us to Masks from season 7 of TNG, one of the how shall we put it? One of the less well regarded episodes.
I mean, can we just use shittest?
Apologies for misleading anybody. But we're not covering the 80s cartoon.
Oh, we totally
I
should,
just couldn't resist.
Yeah, I actually was trying to think of a joke about the 80s cartoon, but you already did it on our thumbnail, so
all I'm saying is when I was watching Lower Decks and I saw the reference come up in the opening minutes, like I not only said bollocks to myself, but I swear I could hear you two saying bollocks wherever you were in the world as you saw that moment.
It was like it was in the opening sequence, sort of like the bit before the titles, and it was like, we've got to.
Yeah, it's one of them that we'd avoid otherwise. So
I wouldn't go as far as to say that it ruined the episode for me, but I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, in the opening minutes, really?
Yeah, that's it. So, well, as long as what's his name from Code of Honor don't turn up, Lutan, at the start of the next episode,
Jesus.
But we're definitely covering the dregs of TNG, aren't we? But you never know. We might give Masks a bit of a critical reappraisal when we get there.
The funniest thing is, though, we're talking about doing at one of the sci-fi weekenders, we're talking about doing the worst of Star Trek. Was one of the ideas we had, brilliantly thought of by Elliot. And I'm worried we're going to get through them all at this rate before we get there.
Yeah, we could do. I've got few that I've got.
On weekender, like it's a chugging. We go to this. People who don't know, we go to a sci-fi weekender, and we've done it before a couple of times. We've done an hour long for Retrek, and I put forward, we'd be up for doing one, and I've suggested we do Where Star Trek Goes Wrong, and a tongue-in-cheek at some of the sillier episodes.
Oh yeah,
but it's something that you can get an audience involved in as well.
It's so much fun to have with that.
I've got a couple in mind, and we haven't done them yet. So
I'd also just like to give a shout out. It's kind of the spiritual home of Retrek because that's where I met.
Absolutely,
that's that came on second Screen Fest, I think it was, and we did this. So yeah, it's a spiritual home. I also love the fact that I think what they're doing is what Marvel did when they did Avengers Endgame. One of the times they went to was Thor 2. I think they're actually trying to reclaim the least liked episodes by referencing them.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I think so. And Lower Decks can do it. Lower Decks can reference really bad stuff and
do it well.
Get away with it. But you couldn't do it on a straight-laced show. Like, you wouldn't have a proper sequel to Masks in one of the live-action shows.
Discovery's like Masks Part 2. Like, they did the unification, but obviously that was a good one.
So, as we've alluded to, then, there's they refer to it as an ancient mask situation, which I love the implication that this happens all the time.
Well, Mariner goes, "Oh, this is the third time," and you do get it in the show. And Freeman goes, "There's got to be a better way," and I can't remember the species because it's the same species from masks.
Yeah,
and there's got to be a better way of dealing with the archaeological artifacts.
Yeah, I mean, and when you watch the Masks episode, it does finish with them saying, "Oh, we're sending out ships to investigate it," and you're like, "Yeah, that'd be the Cerritos that'd get sent out after this."
That's true.
And the sort of the B plot then is about all this. Everybody's stressed, and Billups says that he's a fucking pile of stress at one point. And it's taking that stereotype, isn't it, of Scotty always did it and Chief O'Brien always did it, where they take the tech manuals on holiday with them.
Yeah.
And this idea that the engineers can never relax, they're always on. And we sort of milk that to its furthest extent, really, throughout the rest of the episode.
And I love the fact that you bring back in, like, I love the fact also in Lower Decks, not only like any background shot can be filthy with aliens you haven't seen in Star Trek since the first episode they were in, so that's always good. But also, like, the main character, like, they had the three-armed lady who was that species. It wasn't a pseudo
Arex from the animated series.
Yeah, he was one of the kind of bridge officers on that. I just love all that they can do here, and they don't have to worry about budgets with costumes either.
Yeah.
No, exactly. But weirdly, this episode kind of feels like a bottle episode because the majority of it's on the ship. But you do bottle episodes because you're running out of budget. But this is animation, so we don't need to. But it's an interesting idea. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if the writers have gone, well, we've got to do a bottle episode because Star Trek does bottle episodes every so often.
Come out with.
If they're going to do a pastiche to a bottle episode, I need it to be in one location. I'm sorry, there was two locations. You had the planet and the thing. I would love it if they do a bottle pastiche. And knowing Lower Decks, that
to be fair, you can't. I don't know if you can class this as a bottle episode because if this was live action, you've got a huge brand new set built for it.
True, yeah, you have. And on that set, I love how they've got a room with puppies in. So they're like, "Oh, this is the room with puppies, and we also have kittens for deviants."
Yeah.
Agreed, by the way. Agreed. People who have cats just like to touch themselves. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it.
Kittens
I agree with you.
Once to get to a couple of months old, that's old enough.
Yeah, if you had a kitten that grew up to be a puppy that then grew up to be a dog, that'd be all right because you'd get the cute fluffy kitten thing first and then...
Yeah.
Although puppies are exceedingly cute as well. So I think puppies have even got it on them there. I
don't
get the whole argument because people go, it's like, "Oh, I love cats because they're so independent and they tell you to fuck off all the time." It's like, why? Why do you like that? I like to be like that. I don't want my dog to tell me that.
Yeah, that's it.
I want my dog to come up to me and think I'm brilliant. And then I go, right, I'm going out now. Brilliant. We had a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when I came out of hospital when I'd been in for 6 weeks, I got in, opened the door, the cat just went meow and then pissed off. I'm like, really? That's all I get?
The cat's like, what? I like to sleep in too. What's your point?
Yeah. So the main plot then, we've got a room lottery going on. And we get this idea that Delta Shift are the arch enemies of Beta Shift. And they've already done this once already this season, kind of, in that they had the other Lower Decks crew. So they seem to like doing the
season as well, didn't they, with them?
Yeah, they like doing these rivalries between our lower deckers and other lower deckers.
And do you know why there's four shifts on that? Is because Jericho was on that ship before he went to the Enterprise. So
yeah, that's it. He's put a.
I've got to say,
Jericho's fault again.
Jericho's way of running things is a lot better for the crew.
Well, Riker didn't think so.
Well, you see this, but this is the rivalry it causes. This is the rivalry.
6 hours on, 18 hours off, instead of 8 hours on, 16 hours off. It's great for the crew. It just meant that Riker had a little bit of a work to do to draw up the new rotor.
You say this, Elliot, but you're thinking of it as like the amount of hours, but they probably have to do more shifts because they're doing shorter hours to fit.
No, maybe they do 6 shifts. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they just enjoy doing a longer day and then having an extra day off.
We've got a 4-shift rotation.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that if there was more people on 1 shift rotation, which then did less days, so they do longer hours but less days. Then if you create a 4th shift, you don't just beam more people on, you change the who's on which shift.
No, you don't get days off unless it's scheduled time.
No, but I'm saying that's what
you don't take time off. That's why you have things like Captain Picard and that. You've got like 180 days holiday to come.
You see, then you're talking about the main bridge officers. The rest of them are just, they enjoy their day. The rest of them have got a union. It's just the main bridge crew who never.
Yeah, the main it's like you can't be in the union if you're management or whatever.
Yeah, no Ferengi. That's what I'm saying. You get a union.
So in order to get to stop Delta Shift cheating, they've got to sneak to this location. And it takes them through Shax and Ta'ana's holodeck fantasy. Which
I really like this. It's like they go into it and it's like, this is a bank. How boring. And then they burst in, right, Feds, here we go. Everyone hit the deck or you're dead.
Oh, and it's like, I forget what the line is before, but it's something about like, hey, let me show you. And then she just pulls her top down. And
she's like, you want to look at this?
Well,
I mean, Jesus, I've got to say,
she's gone enjoying herself, holodeck safety's off and really getting into it. And he's suddenly gone, freeze program. We never talk. I died and you haven't asked me about it. Oh, you're a bit stressed. You want to suckle on mummies?
I mean, do you see? This is probably as a joke like this. This is probably about the kind of like length I like it to go to. And I'm not complaining, not length of anything else before anyone thinks I'm being rude. But like this other episode, they have this episode, the episode which was just all about sex, and I don't know, that felt like a little untracked to me somehow. But little references like this, I think, are just enough to make an adult kind of cartoon.
The thing that's funny here is, Shorty pulls down one side and he goes, put them away, because she's obviously a cat, so she's got loads of nipples.
Yeah. So true. But I don't know. I know, I get it. Like for some people, like they just want Trek, but completely adult. But like this seemed like the right line for me. I don't know why.
Yeah, I didn't mind this. It was. I wanted to find out how she lost her tail, though, but we're obviously destined not to know.
Let's do what we normally do: kill all the Feds, then do the nasty on the desk, and make all the hostages watch.
I did like that, but I've always wanted to know. Come on.
Yeah. And they end up sneaking through various different rooms then. So they have a swamp for some reason.
Well, that's obvious because it's beneath the hydroponics.
No, they said that. They did it. They said it.
They did, you're right.
Hydroponics or...
Yeah, it's beneath the hydroponics slabs.
Oh, I see.
So they need the swamp. It's kind of like going back to when we covered Galaxy Quest at Squeefest. It's one of them where you're like, why is the swamp on the starship, you know?
But we get what's your security officer?
Shax.
No, the other one.
I'm not sure.
The guy who speaks in like.
Oh yes, Keishon.
And he said, doing his plants, enjoying himself. He cuts the leaf off, and I can't remember the name, but when Gamora slit his throat.
Yeah. Except for he says it in really kind of tongue. You get, Gamora when he slit his throat. It's all That was the funniest bit about it. I love that character. He could just say anything out of context and it's always funny.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is exactly what I wanted from him when they announced that character. I was like, they've just got to have him coming out with random stuff. in all these different situations.
Just because you mentioned it, Screefest, by the way, I will be sending the video to Jim if you want to put that up on the YouTube channel for Retrek. And the audio will come on a week when people want a week off from Retrek.
That might be what you get when we're at Sci-Fi Weekender. You might get Galaxy Quest. So
there you go.
We'll see. We'll see how the scheduling works out.
If we get the video up, it means if anyone does want to seek it out earlier, it's there.
Absolutely. And then the next room they get is the anti-grav room, which
it's actually the deflector.
Turns out it's the deflector dish, doesn't it?
Yeah, which is really cool because we've never seen. We saw a little bit in Generations. We did where Kirk's messing with the controls, but we never saw properly. And we've seen it as well with Janeway in The Earth from Hell, where she goes in because it's on fire, but we never really saw anything. But this is actually what I was alluding to when I said if this was a bottle episode, this huge set that they'd have to build.
You're right. That is an expensive set to build if they did do, It's sort of the opposite of what you get in First Contact when walking around on the outside of the deflector dish, but this time it's the inside. And we've been introduced to this concept before, back in the first episode of Enterprise, where Merryweather's sat upside down in the anti-grav room, the sweet spot, as he calls it, which, I'm sure you can make jokes along those lines as well if you wanted to, but we wouldn't do that.
Sorry. I was going to go for Merryweather tangent. It's just he's such a poorly written character. He's always just, gee whiz, golly, we're going to a planet. Golly, gee, I got to do this. He is such a corny character. Sorry.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot. Wasn't a lot to him, was there really?
He was very underwritten, let's just put it that way. And nothing against the actor or anything, but just,
No, it was just a lot of the characters in Enterprise were thin.
I think he got the worst of it, though.
Probably.
It was suffering from franchise exhaustion or
I felt with him, it's almost like they'd written him like a kid character, but as an adult, it was just weird.
It didn't work. And even in the later seasons where they tried to give everyone else something to chew on a little bit, they never did with Merryweather.
No.
Which, shame. The engineers, then, we'll talk about them for a bit. So they keep trying to find these sneaky ways to actually do work. So you've got them on the massage table, but they're holding the pads.
As soon as you arrive, they fix the door.
They fix the door, and then they're drawing stuff in the sand that's actually a schematic for something. Yeah. And they do that black with the cucumbers to make it look like they're armband green instead of red or what have you.
What were you thinking? Well, we were thinking the so-and-so properties of the cucumber will... No!
Also, I love it when the captain says before, it's like they're at least this one's kind of getting into it, lying on the massage table. And she goes, I thought I could get in some build time on this bit of kit. And then says the next one next to him, when she gets annoyed, they goes, didn't anyone else want to get into build time? The guy next to him just holds up the thing like,
Yeah, but I didn't get in trouble for it.
And it all ends up with Freeman being the one who actually gets them stressed out of all of it. And
that's nicely done.
Yeah, that's
it's like
fun.
Code Black. We've never seen one before.
And the first thing to go to is you haven't been possessed by an ancient deity, have you, recently? So obviously it's a
few of them.
It's obviously a prolific problem. They probably should have blown it up in masks, but we'll talk about that.
I did really enjoy it when it's like, more puppies in, more puppies. We've exhausted all our puppies. We even threw in some rabbits.
They chucked a rabbit in. And the door then that the lower deckers are waiting outside of, this is very Galaxy Quest. Like, we've got this door that only opens once an hour.
I loved all the stuff in the corridors with the lower deckers. And you've got is that the when they meet up with the Delta Shift?
Yeah, they meet up with Delta, because they're talking about what do we say to let people into the room. So it's almost like we've done that joke in Strange New Worlds and in Discovery, where it's like, what's the captain's engage thing going to be? But the lower deck equivalent is what do we say when we let people in through a door? And they want to do Riker. They both want to be Riker.
It's also when they're sat next to the Delta ship. I really like the way they did this because they've kind of subtly made them have parallels to each other, so they look a bit like each other. Yeah. And when they're sat next to each other, you really see it, but you don't notice it straight away. It's very nice. I like little subtle nods like that. Yeah,
it's a good touch. Then back on the planet, the engineers have actually built a de-stressing machine. And it works. The RX person's like, no, get rid of it.
I don't know if this is a purposeful nod or anything, but do you know who Temple Grandin is?
No, not
this woman with autism in America, and she was quite a pioneer in kind of autism and working in animal husbandry. So she grew up on a farm, and she created this kind of like for horses, she created this kind of or cattle, sorry, no, it's for cows. This thing where they go around in a circle to go towards slaughter. So they'd actually something to do with it going around in circles. The cattle would go through of their own accord, whereas previously they were prodding them with cattle prods, all this.
All right.
They just followed it around if it was round in a circle, and they'd lead themselves to slaughter. But one thing she created when she was at college, because she didn't like hugs, but she wanted to kind of safe space, she created this machine which you sit in, pull this thing, and it hugs her. I don't know if this is creative based on it, but she got loads of people because they wanted to. I forget why, but they wanted her to get rid of it for some reason. It might have been like because it was on campus grounds or whatever. But she got people to test it to see how they marked it out of 5, how much more comforted they felt. It's like a total autism way of dealing with kind of a hug and working in the mechanics of it. But she got enough data to prove that people liked it, so that they allowed her to keep it. That just reminded me of this. I'm sure it must be a reference of some description.
Like, this machine gave me the second idea for an episode we could have covered, the DS9 one, where they've got the guy who Quark's having an auction, and the guy bids for the baseball card.
Oh, yeah.
Energizes your cells so you'll live longer.
Nice.
Yes, that's a good point. That's reminding me, actually, there was a lad I went to school with, and once, he told me, he said, I've got this really good idea for something I'm going to make when I leave school, and, it's going to make me a hell of a lot of money, and that's my plan for the rest of my life. And I was like, oh, cool, what is it? And he was really reluctant to tell me. He was like, well, you might steal my idea, you might try and patent it, and anyway, eventually I talked him round into telling me what it was, and he said, it's a machine that you go in and it cures any disease you've got. And I'm like, okay, how are you going to build it? He's like, I don't know. Like, there might be a slight flaw to this plan.
It's like those, isn't it?
There's a film with Jack Black and Ben Stiller where they create. There's one with Ben Stiller and Jack Black where they create a spray. Jack Black comes up with this idea of this spray which you spray on poo and it makes it vaporize. And it's called Vapoo Gone or something like that. And Ben Stiller's going, no, that's ridiculous. You can't, how would it work? Well, let the science guys come up with that. It just, you spray it and it works. And he goes, yeah, but that's not an idea. That's just, no, it's fine. And he ends up having a company and getting some scientists. They go, oh yeah, I reckon we could use blah, blah, blah. And they make it. And then Ben Stiller's super jealous. I think the film's called Envy. It's really good. Check it out if you haven't.
That's it. You need your ideas person.
That had the underpant gnomes.
South Park. Yeah, these two were South Park.
Yeah, but what's stage 2?
Stage 2, and it's just question mark. Yeah, brilliant. Then the captain of the Dove, when they bring this out, starts vaping or smoking or whatever, and it's like, get that machine destroyed.
Yeah, yes. Get it off the ship.
So I thought that was good, how quickly stressed the anti-stress captain was. Wrapping up
I love the fact there was a vape pen. That just amused me greatly.
Wrapping up the main plot then, so they decide that Unity's the better idea and don't put the names in. But it turns out Delta Shift have actually outsmarted them. We'll just get one room, but put 4 beds in it, and we'll still have a bigger room.
We'll all be together with a bigger room.
My favourite one was when Boimler, guy with the eyepiece, the engineer.
Rutherford.
when he goes, it's like, what? And you didn't think about this? Like, you didn't think of putting my name in? It's like, oh, well, we're all busy with the All for One and One for All. Like, All for One, that's the point. We could have all had the one room. It says it right there.
Yeah, they just missed a trick there. Never mind.
No, it's pretty slick writing there, I thought.
Yeah, it was very good.
It was nice though that they were. No, we want to stick together. They just that they could have still done that.
That's it. The sentiment was nice. Just the logistics they didn't really think about enough.
I think that's the thing about Lower Decks.
What
it
is
manages to take the mic, but there's still a heart behind them wanting to get like they're very good at doing that.
What's interesting, if you look at season 1, Boiler was getting really pissed off with Mariner's antics all the time. But now he enjoys that they have all these antics all the time. And
that's true.
It's quite an interesting how the relationship has moved on over.
Well, you've got Boiler now.
Yeah, and they referenced that again, so I wonder if that's going to get him in some serious trouble later in the season, maybe.
Of course it's going to get him in some serious trouble.
I just think it's really cool to have, like, it's like an excuse why you still... Because after a while, you can't have him complaining every time they go into a dangerous situation. Either why would he keep on doing it, or it's going to get annoying? Whereas this is perfect. Like, now you've got Bob Boiler. That's why he does it. Like, he doesn't enjoy it still, but he's committed to pushing himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think as well that this whole thing of them, the kind of heart behind Lower Decks, it's almost like more Star Trek, because it's like most of the time they end up losing whatever they're doing, or at least breaking even, or at best breaking even, and they're still kind of together and united and stuff. So I feel like it's almost more Star Trek. In other Star Treks, they end up winning and they stick together and they're all by their morals.
True, yeah.
If you can do that when you lose, isn't that even better?
Yeah. So shall we talk about masks then? I wanted to watch this one and go, you know what? It's not as bad as everyone says it is, but it's not great.
It's worse. I think it's potentially worse.
Potentially worse, yeah. I mean, there's some interesting stuff in it, but yeah, the execution's lacking. I mean, this is...
It's very much, we know we're coming to an end, and we've run out of ideas.
Absolutely.
I just want to know, how the fuck do you have an episode where the whole ship is being transformed into a different environment and it still feels like nothing happens? It's almost like a magic trick of bad.
Yeah.
Well, nothing really does happen in this one. That's the
problem with it. Like, it's a really interesting premise what it is, but they do nothing with it.
Yeah, I mean, the premise is similar to the Inner Light, but instead of it being all internal to Picard, it's doing it externally to the Enterprise, and that is an interesting concept. But
I mean,
the way they do it,
annoyed. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say I got annoyed when we were doing the Strange New Worlds episode where the ship gets transformed into a storybook. I got annoyed because I was thinking like, oh, nothing's ever done this. And when we were talking about it, one of you reminded me that it was like, oh, actually, Masks has done it before. I was like, oh, fuck, Masks did this before this brilliant episode.
It doesn't
How dare they steal their thunder 30 years earlier? it post annoyed me that they'd done this so badly so many years
ago. I mean, everything just feels off with it. Like, right at the start where you've got Data sculpting and it's like, no, try and... Like, Troy's just... So, I know that she's trying to get him to express himself differently, but she's so, like, crabby with him. It's like, right, no, okay, we can tell that you can do impressionism. That's fine. Music. Oh, no, you've just done a perfect musical note. That's not good enough. You need to show me how you feel.
Yeah, when he did the musical note, I was thinking, fucking... That is so abstract for a computer to do.
It's abstract.
She should be praising him left, right, and center, going, look, I think we could work on this further, but that's really good. You know, the fact that you've managed to extrapolate something a little different.
But no, she's not happy with that at all. But then Troy's been very weird this episode anyway, because they go into her quarters, they find this weird artifact. And the first thing she says is, oh, I bet it's Will that's done it. So is this a regular thing that Riker sneaks into your quarters and Yeah,
the fact she's just not concerned about the fact that someone's been in a room. And
like at this point, shouldn't we also have the relationship with Worf going on?
I think it's just about to start. Yeah, the next episode's Eye of the Beholder, and that's one of the first ones.
I thought it was Parallels was the first one.
Parallels deals with it as well. Parallels sort of shows Worf a reality where he's with Troy, and Eye of the Beholder shows Troy a reality where she's with Worf. So I can't remember.
I'll have to watch Eye of the Beholder back, because I remember in Parallels, that was at the end of it, he buys her some champagne, and that basically leads into All Good Things. I didn't remember another episode with it.
No, the Eye of the Beholder does deal with it. But it's one of them It Never Happened episodes. So
I feel like it almost backed up a theory, which I don't think I'm the first one to have, that Riker and Troy were probably fuck buddies when they were just married.
I think they were, but
yeah.
So has he been in my quarters again, as he always is when we're having sex?
That's one thing, though. But Beverly says, "Oh, maybe you've got a secret admirer," and she goes, "Oh, maybe." Like, oh yeah, maybe someone else has broken into your quarters you didn't know about. But she's just like, "Oh, we'll find out later. It's fine."
Yeah, that was creepy. So, if they'd ended it with her going, "Oh, I think it's Riker," because again, I don't think anyone would argue with the fact that probably he goes into her quarters, and so I think, but it was almost adding that extra bit made it less believable, because it's like, oh, maybe if someone else just breaking into my quarters and putting random statues in there. Nothing creepy about that at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's just weird. But then Data makes a mask, and instead of Troy praising him and blah, 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 she's like, well, hang on, is it you that's been in my quarters, Data? It's like, give the guy a break. He's done like 3 sculptures for you. And everyone...
He has been in my quarters, and he's done 4 sculptures.
Oh, it could have been. Yeah, you want to see something abstract? Here you are. That's going in your quarters. Have some of that. And yeah, then we get like the hieroglyphs on the screen, and Data knows what some of them mean. And yeah, it's all a bit. And it turns out there's a temple in the comic, which is quite a nice special effect. I like the temple. That
was nice. I did actually think that, same as you, I thought that effect really stood out, even by today's standards. So that was really good. Yeah. But it's the other thing, and I love the fact that we've got Picard being, like, because he is an archaeologist, he knows species and the commonalities. But everything he says, I've certainly never heard of any commonalities or, like, between species on Earth, which is usually extrapolated from. And it just seems he just says something because it's green going, oh, actually, in most civilizations, they've got 2 beings which are both gods. Like later on, he was saying about this, and I assumed he was going God and devil, kind of, because I can remember a lot. And then he goes, no, they're 2 gods which kind of timeshare. And it's like, most species have this. Do they really?
Well, it's sun and the moon, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's one of them where all the way through you're going, it's clearly the sun and the moon. Come on. Even the glyphs look like the sun and the moon.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that. I'm just saying it's like everything Picard kind of like guesstimates from other species doesn't seem to hold any water, right? There's this.
No, I agree.
And usually they give you some basis on Earth for, like, in most cultures, this happens. And throughout the galaxy, you kind of assume they've extrapolated. Nothing he says, like, I'm like,
yeah,
do they?
Like, when they go, well, what about when he's talking about journeys, and he's like, what about death? The greatest journey. It's like, yeah, whatever, God, go on. Your theory just fell apart, and you just blagged it by going, death is a journey. Maybe he was looking at that guy from Ghostbusters too, because one of his dying words, like, death is but a doorway, or something like that. So maybe Picard was like, well, in this ancient film, Ghostbusters 2, Vigo the Carpathian actually says death is but a journey. So there we go.
And he did say, I shall return.
When you see
if this had been Vigo, that'd have been so much better.
But when you see all these bits all over the ship, you immediately think Aztecs.
Yeah, they are very Aztec-y, yeah.
And it's
God, yeah.
How come Picard didn't pick up on that?
You think so? And, like, the fact that it takes them so long to arrive at, it's a bit like the sun and the moon. It's like, no, it's exactly like the sun and the moon. one of the symbols is literally the sun with a face on it, and the other one is shaped like a moon.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other thing it kind of looked like was a croissant. Unless this species is big into croissants, I think it's a moon.
Picard should have picked up on that, though, being French.
There you go.
It's very strange, isn't it? Because, like, it's very what we call ancient architecture. But they've got this huge technology behind it. That's not really, apart from them being hit with a beam, doesn't really explain much. Like, so overwriting the computers and taking over the replicators to transform the ship.
Yeah, it's one of them where it's, again, like, not to knock the Inner Light, because that is an out-and-out classic, but the fact that this is a species that only just managed to send a rocket up into the atmosphere, but somehow designed a device that could perfectly interface with an alien's brain and give them a whole lifetime's experience. There's always a bit of a disconnect between these primitive societies, but they make the most incredible technological things.
I also felt that this episode, it felt like an AI, a very basic early AI had created this episode, because like there was loads of kind of lines which just felt like they were said for just dramatic like effect, which didn't really fit. Like when Data's hooked up to the wall in engineering, and he's going, it's like, what does it feel like when someone loses their mind? And it's like,
that's
where
weird.
Did it come from? And like, and it's like, oh, I don't understand what's going on. Why didn't you just say that? Like, it's not very Data to talk so.
Also, this whole thing of, Data's losing his mind, so he's got so many personalities in there. Going right back to Data Law, did they not say that he had all the memories of all the colony that the crystalline entity killed? Yeah. That was a thing in the early days of Data. They very much forgot about it afterwards, and maybe that's one of the ones they just sort of quietly retconned. But
it was a small colony. This is a whole world. Come on, get with it, man.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'm just saying he has had this before. Anyway,
it did actually remind me.
It was actually a very small population for a whole world, only a couple of thousand.
True. Okay, we'll let him off.
You know, it's a bad episode when it reminds you of episodes of other shows which have done it better. So, like in this one, I was saying, it's like, actually, wasn't there an episode, I think, called Lifeboat in Stargate SG-1 where Daniel Jackson got loads of like people in his head and he kept on switching?
Yeah, I think so.
And he was really good in that. It was a great performance, well written. I mean, look, I'm not saying anything, but I love Brent Spiner, but this is what I was talking about, of how much better I feel like he is in Picard than he is in Next Generation. And it's probably down to the way it's written, but it's like, oh my God, was he chewing the scenery in some of those voices? Like, I am the best guy who's scared of the evil woman. Really felt.
My notes actually say Data turns into a twat, then several twats. Those are my notes for this bit. For exactly the reason you said, like, oh, I'm so scared. Ooh, not Cordano. Ooh, Musaka.
I was waiting for Worf to kind of start scanning the walls where he's been chewing the scenery for any shapes that they might recognize from the glyphs.
Like, it's a funny one, this, because they explain it and they say that they're a very advanced society, but we're ritualistic, which is fair enough. And then Data's got all these personalities, but it's almost like he's got stories, not personalities.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And also, I've got a whole world's worth of personalities in my head. How many are we going to see? 3. They'll just go through those 3. The other ones will just be quiet.
And that's the thing. Like, if this is all based on their ancient mythology, you're not going to be scared that Musaka's actually going to turn up and destroy you. And it makes sense when you think about it, does it?
Actually, also, can I throw in that? Musaka, that's a dish.
Better.
That's an aubergine dish.
Jerry Ryan does this role better in Voyager.
Oh, yeah.
Personality.
Oh, is it Darkling, I want to say, the episode?
No.
That's the one where the Doctor turns evil.
No, there's one where she's picking up loads of...
Yeah, I know which one you mean. I just can't think of the name of it.
Is the one where Major Kira does it as well?
There's the one where they all get different parts of Dax's personality.
Yeah, that's the one.
I just like after Misaka came up, I was wondering if her ancient enemy Tiramisu might also make an appearance. It's like you can't just name your characters after something you ate that night.
It's oregano. No, it's Corgano.
Yeah, it's probably after the seasoning which they used in their Musaka.
Yeah, exactly.
Oregano. No, let's just put another letter in front of it. No.
Yeah, Corgano. We'll have Corgano. And you do get a good... This is probably my favourite line in the episode where they're giving like a damage report and they say, part of Deck 12 is now an aqueduct. Which, that's a visual. Show us the aqueduct. Yeah. I want to see that. Okay, so part of it's turned into an aqueduct, but we'll just show you a corridor. I mean, obviously it's budget, but I'd have liked to have seen an aqueduct.
It's one of those things that they can do now with this. CGI has moved on enough now that they could show something like that
they
nowadays.
Could.
Yes, it felt like that someone had just shot a kind of mummy movie or an Aztec movie somewhere on Paramount, and they're going, we need a cheap episode right around this set.
Let's go around there. There's Brendan Fraser won't see us sneaking in.
Yeah, it was in the downtime between mummy shots. Yeah, that's...
Yeah. Then the modifier torpedo. Right, let's modify this explosive torpedo. Where should we do it? Stick it in front of warp core.
Yeah, I can't see any problem.
Can't see anything going wrong there. Well, it's absolutely
to be
fine.
Fair, that's where the test stand phases and all that as well.
Yep, you're right. It is.
Things, but only if someone stood behind the shielding to make sure it works, just in case it doesn't.
Yes, good point.
Also, with all these parts of the ship changing into other things, life support, the engines, is it not going to get affected at all by
the walls, the outer hull of the ship? It's turned into vines. Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's also downloaded TARDIS technology, so all this can be contained within the ship and not disturb any vital systems.
Luckily, the photon torpedo turns into snakes, so it doesn't blow up, so that's all right. And then, Picard goes to talk to Misaka, but he ends up getting Brent Spiner doing the old man voice. And this is just, it's like, his first one, squeaky voice, Eloy or whatever he's called. And it's like, I'll show you the thing. And then the old man, there's only one person who knows it, and it's the old man, that he won't tell you. It's so he happens to get the two who actually know what the so that's lucky.
I also like the fact that the old man character did kind of remind me of, did you ever watch The Fast Show? There's one character who's like, I am an actor. I will now spend hours in makeup to transform me into this, that, and the other. And they always went hey, I'm this. And it's like, it was one where he was being old. It's like, I will be transformed into a man of 100 years old. I will be old and wizened. It will take ages to perform this makeup transformation. Just one powder puff in his face goes, I'm all old like.
That is pretty much what he's going for here, isn't it? The half moon circle and the point.
Getting cold.
It's
a good job this fire's just started.
I've just pissed myself. Have the visitors been yet?
And don't they say at this point that Misaka has killed the squeaky voice one? How's that meant to work then? Has it just deleted that personality now because she's killed him?
I don't think he's got personalities. I think he's got stories.
Yeah, memories.
And he's just telling the story, like they say in the ritualistic. And I think it's more that he's telling the story of what's happened.
Yeah.
As opposed to he's pulling different personalities popping up.
I'm sorry to keep on referencing other properties, but it's like in Star Trek, not Star Trek, in Superman 3, where you've got the green light guy and the red light guy on the crossing, and they one goes up and punches the other. If you look very closely in Data's eyes, you see one little man shooting the other.
Yeah, that's what's going on.
It's all there.
I like it. Good bull from Superman 3. So he builds a temple, and eventually they get the symbol. And then this is where they finally twig, it's about balance between Misaka and fondue. And
it's trying. She suddenly goes, "Oh, look at this, Captain," and makes him climb up the stairs and kneel down to look at it instead of going, "Oh, it's the sun and the moon symbol on this brick."
Yeah.
Oh, we've not seen them together again before.
And then, but then the final plan is basically, right, make Picard a mask and I'll blag it. And they go, well, how will you know what part of the ritual to perform? I will improvise.
He goes full experimental sonic machines here. He has his tinfoil mask.
Yeah.
I've got another reference to pull. Like, this is the worst ever episode. I'm including every iteration of the X-Files. There's one episode where basically this is with Reyes and Doggett in the later series.
I will do that then.
Reyes decides that Doggett, because he doesn't remember something, she just decides that he switched places with his duplicate from another reality. Based on fucking nothing. There is nothing to back that up, nothing to suggest that as a working theory, nothing. And it just turns out to be right. That's what this whole episode is. Everything that Picard says, everything that they do, go, well, I could just wear a mask and blag it. Yes, everything you say will be fine then. Everything you just
and then
with one random line of explanation which makes no sense and it will work.
And that is exactly what he does. He just goes and goes, do you want to go to sleep now, Masaka? Yes. And that's it.
Yeah,
and that's the end of the episode. And by the way, Data sat on the floor and suddenly he's upright because they cut away from him and cut back, and he's just sitting there. The corridor is it's a corridor as well. It's not even a room that they're in. They're in a corridor which takes up the same space. It angered me greatly. I'm not going to lie.
And the fact that where's Picard got his mask from? Because I'm assuming he's made this out of tin foil.
I think he used datas that Data had sculpted. Oh no, Data's got datas on, hasn't
but Picard's mask disappears at the end as well.
Oh yeah, it does.
And also, they're stood in front of. Because at that stage I was going.
The ship makes it, doesn't it? They put in the symbol and it makes the mask.
Right.
Which it would have made more sense if Picard had put the mask on and Corgano had have actually possessed him.
Yeah.
And then Corgano could have done the ritual, but instead it's just, I'll make it up.
And then you have a big dramatic ending as well, as opposed to them just going like, hey, I think you should fuck off. Hey, I think I will. Bye.
Try and put the mask on, because you'd imagine could Oregano being female, because it's like the sun chasing the moon and stuff.
Well, isn't Masaka meant to be female?
I don't know.
I mean, I think Masaka's meant to be female. Could you not tell by Brent Spiner's performance the way he channeled femininity?
No. Yeah, she was meant to be female. It was mentioned a few times. I mean, I don't blame anyone for not following anything in this episode. It was also when Picard walked into the room, I looked at the timestamp because, believe me, I was counting the fucking minutes till this ended. And I'm going, it's 3 minutes left of the episode. How the fuck are they going to wrap this up? Hey, I think you should go. Bye. Done.
Yeah.
Episode. It's
a very sudden ending.
The worst wrap-up of any Star Trek, possibly ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it makes you long for justice. At least that had a storyline you could follow. Like, it may not been a good one, but it had a story. Even Code of Honor, as racist as it is, has a storyline.
Yeah, at least there's a few fights to the death in Code of Honor, whereas this is just people in a mask talking to each other.
Cover Code of Honor. It's going to be a very difficult one to cover.
The problem with Code of Honor is, like, with bad episodes, we can take the piss, like we have been doing with this one, and have a laugh. But Code of Honor's that offensive that you can't even really do that.
No, you can laugh at how bad and how racist it is. I think you can honestly laugh at how badly it misses the mark. But also, the beauty of this is, if we cover it, it means Lower Decks has mentioned it. Because let's face it, we're never going to cover it otherwise. They have to mention it first, so they've taken this in off it. They were the ones who referenced it for us. So
there you go. Mike McMahon, find a way of referencing Code of Honor without offending people, and we will cover it. But
I think there's a natural way of doing this. You just at the beginning of the episode go say, should we go to this planet, whatever planet was called on Code of Honor? It's like, oh no. That one's been banned from the databases. We're not going there.
Yeah, it's got the death penalty like Talos 4 had.
Yeah, the whole planet's away on re-education about cultural sensitivity at the moment.
Yeah, sensitivity training for the whole planet. Yeah, very good. Well, that about does us, I think, for that one. And let's see what Lower Decks throws at us next week. We'll be covering Lower Decks. We'll also be covering which episode it points us to. Will it be another bad one? Who knows?
I think the reality is with the Lower Decks is I think we almost deliberately go for the bad episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's how we can cover them. Because they won't fit into other times that we...
It's true, but let's face it, this was a pretty heavy reference. It was hard not to...
I must admit, this was a very heavy reference. But, like, I know that normally we all slate Justice. But this must be really high up there with the worst episodes of Star Trek.
Oh, this makes Justice look great. And again, I can't stress this highly enough. It's something that Jim said at the beginning of the episode. There's so many episodes you watch back and go, you know what? Okay, it's still not a great episode, but it's not as bad as I thought. Like Justice, I can even find bits of it to recommend. It's not many, but there is a sort of like, there was a good episode to be had out of it. And there probably is a good episode to be had out of this, but fucking hell, did they not go anywhere close to it?
No, that's it. I mean,
it's like I said, it's a really good idea, but it hasn't been implemented at all.
No.
It's like they've gone, Aztec culture taking over the ship, possessing people through artifacts, and it's going to affect the ship because it's going to rewrite it, but we'll have no danger to the ship.
Yeah.
We'll only have one person get possessed.
What would have made this episode really good, and if anyone's got any deep faking skills or whatever, if when they'd have come into the temple, you'd have had Richard O'Brien run past with the crystal maze, people going, follow me for a 3-minute game.
Well, this is the thing. It's like, we'll use Justice as an example. With Justice, I think you could keep the same scenes and rewrite it into a good episode. Like the same scene beats of where they go, just rewrite it so it's like you put more of an emphasis on the god creature, you have more of an emphasis on the kind of morality of their justice system, and you could get a really good episode out of it. With this, it would be a page one rewrite, scene by like,
definitely.
Keep any of the scenes as they are.
You can keep the idea, but none of the actual content can stay, apart from the bit about there being an aqueduct.
The thing with Lower Decks referencing it is Lower Decks can't, but they did it taking the piss.
Yeah,
that's exactly it. It's like, if you were going to rewrite this episode, basically you just start with Aztecs on the Enterprise. Right, I can go with that. But you wouldn't you wouldn't use anything from this episode. It really would be whole cloth new.
Civilization, rewrite matter, possess people, and alter the ship with it. Go.
In fact, I'll go as far as to say Code of Honor, and hear me out here, all the racist shit has to go, but even the scene by scene, like, them against a superior warring race, they're kind of in a battle to the death. There's the scenes you could keep and just rewrite them.
Tasha falling in love with the guy who calls a woman.
Yeah, exactly. You just have to rewrite how they talk. Like how they talk is completely inappropriate, but there is an episode structure to it. There isn't.
Yeah, you're right.
Here. I honestly cannot think of another Star Trek episode which has nothing to it that you could keep from.
No, it is just a nothing episode, but there you go. So we'll be back next week, seeing where Lower Deck sends us again. In the meantime,
whatever we cover will be a better episode than Masks.
I think we can almost certainly say that.
They'll find something. They'll do Sub Rosa next. Just to
I'd love to do Sub Rosa.
Fucking a Ghost. That's pretty much out the window as well. But in fact, Series 7 of Next Generation had some stinkers beyond stinkers.
It's like Elliot said earlier. It was they knew they were winding down. They'd run out of ideas. We've got a film coming up. Let's just get episodes. Do we need 26? Yes. Right. Here we go.
There was a podcast called Star Trek Next Conversation. and they read the some of the kind of things which have been written by the crew and everything. And there's Michael D. Moore has said of this episode, and several others, like, look, we're near the end. We had to get an episode out. We just kind of like, this was just so misdone.
Yeah,
and he says
absolutely.
that about so many of season 7. It's just not true. And yeah, like you say, they were doing the film at the same time. It was just too much Trek being done in one moment. 26 episodes of series, Jesus.
You don't get that now.
And there were 26 episodes of DS9 at the same time.
That's the thing.
Yes.
Like DS9, I think actually it's a real credit to them. There are more clunkers. Like there are some bad episodes. Every Star Trek's got some bad episode, but Jesus Christ, their hit rate, considering, or the ones which are even just medium, like great.
DS9 did have an exceptional writers' room, though, when you look at the people they assembled there. But
yeah, I find it really hard to justify sometimes that. I still am going to say Next Generation is my favorite episode of my favorite Star Trek. I'm still going to stick with Next Gen is my favorite Star Trek because when it was great, it was.
Yeah.
But fucking hell, it's hard to defend when you watch shit like that. Like there's no DS9 equivalent to this.
Well, let us know what you think. We're at RetrekPod on Twitter. You can email us retrekpod@gmail.com. Come and join us on Facebook, YouTube, whatever your social media place of choice is. We're probably there.
If anyone has the defense for this episode, I really fucking want to hear it. Genuinely.
Yeah.
Just please let us know. Really I will not take the piss out of you. I just want to hear what the good.
If you're a fan of Masks, let us know. Not the Cher film, not the 80s cartoon / toy line, the TNG episode Masks.
Yeah, you don't get away with it that easy. You have to watch this.
Yeah, let us know. And thanks for trekking with us this time.
We changed the theme tune for this week for the titles.
We'll see you next time on the Retrek.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Fascinating.
It's kind of cathartic, this.